Hey, Cybercrime Junkies. This is your host, David Morrow. We have in this episode John Hoyt, the CISO of Clemson University. And we're going to talk about the top cyber risks in higher education. We're going to talk cybercrime, but we're also going to talk about what it's like to be in the trenches and to move your way up in organizations from help desk support to various networking roles, and then to catapult your career into cyber leadership and what that really means, right? The overarching concerns, all of the different threats that face organizations of any kind, in particular higher education. And it's a great discussion. John also created a student-run security operations center, a student-run SOC. That's right, and it's providing the graduates of Clemson unprecedented experience that is helping them launch careers in cybersecurity and beyond. And there's great other insight about breaches that we hear about in the news and how collaboration among organization information sharing is so critical today. So we hope you really enjoy it. This is the story of John Hoyt and top cyber risks in higher education. Come join us as we dive deeper behind the scenes of security and cybercrime today, interviewing top technology leaders from around the world and sharing true cybercrime stories to raise awareness. From the creators of Vigilance, the newest global technology newsletter translating cyber news into business language we all understand. So please help us keep this going by subscribing for free to our YouTube channel and downloading our podcast episodes on Apple and Spotify so we can continue to bring you more of what matters. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and now the show. Well, welcome everybody to Cybercrime Junkies. I am your host, David Morrow. In the studio today with us is John Hoyt. John is the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer at Clemson University. He's been working in cybersecurity for over 16 years and began his career in IT back in 1999, which I believe, John, we were worried about Y2K back then. Working for the city of Greenville in desktop support. His first experience with IT was when an ethical hacker hacked into the city's computer systems. I'm going to ask you about that. During his career, he's worked in hardware and software support, as a Unix and Windows system administrator, and also as a information security engineer and a SOC manager, security operations center manager. He also served as director of information security, deputy CISO, and now has elevated himself to chief information security officer with Clemson. He's a published author and common in-demand speaker on cybersecurity topics and assisted with cybersecurity courses at the university. He has a passion for IT security and helping people get into the field through mentorship and internships. He has 4 great children, a wonderful family, and has been married for 23 years, which, by the way, you should get a medal for. That is fantastic, man. Welcome to the studio, John.
Yeah, thanks, David.
Well, I'm really excited about having you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I didn't, as we were preparing and talking earlier, I didn't even know that your first experience with IT security involved an ethical hacker hacking into the city of Greenville's computer systems. Let's start there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then we'll back up into what we had planned to talk about.
Sounds good.
So tell me about that story. Please share it with the listeners.
Yeah. So just working, like you said, Y2K was the thing.
That was the thing back then, right?
Everybody was worried. Much to do about nothing, but it was a big deal. And we got a report, an email with a PDF that had a printout of this ethical hacker that said, "Hey, I broke into your systems. I found all these weaknesses. I found data on your systems, and please hire me and I'll come in and fix it for you." Right.
Well,
So
that's a pretty common. That is a common approach in terms of bug bounties, right?
right.
But back in the day, that's pretty aggressive
Yeah,
request,
it
isn't it?
was even for me. I think the cool. I actually still have the report. I have the printout. I kept it. And what was cool that kind of triggered me into security was, back then, cybersecurity was voodoo, black magic.
Yeah,
You know,
it really was.
you didn't know how to get into it. You didn't know what the techniques were. And so this PDF went through, okay, I use this tool, then I enumerated this way, then I moved to this step. And it wasn't the full breakdown, but it was,
he
yeah,
moved laterally within the systems,
right,
undetected, probably
right,
escalated privileges, moved up.
right. And
Interesting.
back then, they didn't even have a firewall. So it wasn't that hard.
Oh yeah, that's a good. Can you
But
imagine? Like people today don't understand, like, and some of our listeners don't even understand all the technology involved. But in general, like firewalls, like basic
right.
antivirus things, like those don't stop. They stop a lot right now,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But they're such a staple that the threat actors are already beyond that. They're already trying to get in other ways,
Yeah.
right? But can you imagine like the days where you don't even have that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The desktops were on the internet. Your personal
Yes.
computer was on the internet.
On the internet.
And so he went through that. And that was like, an aha moment.
Oh yeah.
Of this is something I could do. Okay. I get it now. And that put me on the path for, okay, this is where I want to go.
So that event really kind of sparked your interest into, wow, this was almost superhuman. Like this was really powerful, what he had demonstrated.
Absolutely. I had seen war games, that was the thing. And it's like, oh, this is so cool. But you could go on IRC forums and the old school forums and try to find, how do you know how to do this? And there wasn't information out there. You couldn't go Google and YouTube everything on all the techniques. It wasn't there.
And now they have complete classes online. I mean, you can learn everything. I mean, when a new device comes out, like Flipper or whatever, those the new device comes out, and instantly within a month you have like 200 different ways of using this to start a car, get into a house, all these different things.
Spoiled.
Yeah, you kids are spoiled today.
But yeah, no, it was the trigger for me to get on the path for cybersecurity.
That's wonderful. I love it. I was going to ask you kind of like what inspired you to do this, as opposed to the arduous task and the traditional career of network engineering, help desk support, serving people, things like that.
Yeah, I still had to do all that too.
Right. Yeah.
Because there wasn't a entry level, as people say today. There's no entry level positions. There weren't entry level positions then either.
Right. You just kind of have to migrate. And as organizations evolve and mature kind of in their cybersecurity maturity, then they create these roles, right?
Right. So for me, I went to a system administrator role and was looking at cyber the whole time. Like, how do I do this? How do I do this?
Yeah.
And was just lucky and knew somebody here at the university. And they had just built their cybersecurity program, their folks, their team. And he's like, hey, I know you're interested. We've got a spot. We need people. Well, you want to come talk to us? And
that's great.
Yeah, went over and haven't looked back. I'm still here. 2007.
That is just fantastic. I mean, let's talk a little bit about kind of top cyber risks in higher education. I mean, cyber risk to higher education is pretty. I mean, higher education is targeted quite a bit. There's a lot of data. I mean, K-12 is targeted too as well, because most parents don't pull the credit of children when they're younger, and so people, if they can capture that, they can do identity theft sometimes for decades before parents know about it, and we've seen a lot of tragedy there. But Clemson is a phenomenal university. I mean, let me just talk a little bit about Clemson. I got this off the site, and it's pretty amazing. So for 130 years, Clemson University has shown unwavering dedication to the people of South Carolina. The university was founded with a land-grant mission and innovative vision to increase the material resources of the state as a high seminary of learning. Since that time, the university has grown in esteem and impact, earning the R1 classification as one of the nation's most active research institutions, developing international leaders and instilling the core values of honesty, integrity, and respect more than 160,000 graduates. So, like, staying at Clemson, moving up there, dedicating your career there, and then becoming the chief security officer, that's no small feat. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And universities are, and I say this often, they are small cities. You have
It's a great way of thinking about it. Yeah, they really are.
Well, we have a water treatment plant. We have a SCADA system. We have a police department. We have a fire department. We have people that live on your network.
Right.
They're here all the time. They're on your systems all the time, and they're coming from all over the world to come to Clemson. Yeah. So a lot of people call it the Wild West, which it is, but it's not as much as when I first started. When I first started, security was not in the culture. It's just we're here. The secret sauce are the faculty,
right,
and researchers, and you can't tell them no. Right? That was the thing. No. You can't make their job more difficult. They got to be able to do what they need to do. And that's where these risks that have come up that you see, higher ed incidents and breaches, have really changed the perspective for leadership and other higher eds that say, hey, those are our brethren. We see what's happened to them. We've got to do something here to make sure we shore up our security.
Well, it's such a challenge because the threat actors only have to be right once. You guys have to, I think as defenders, a lot of defenders don't get the credit they deserve, right? Like, there are so many things that you guys stop on a regular basis, and catastrophes that you avoid regularly that nobody really hears about.
Right.
It's
like Batman.
The one person, it's like Batman. But like the one person that gets through, right, that will throw your data up on a leak site on the dark web or whatever, like, they're the ones that everybody finds out about at the end. And then they're like, well, what did you do wrong? And it's like, they didn't do anything wrong. Like, it's going to happen. Like, these things happen. But there's a difference between a breach, right? One that occurs even though best practices were happening and it gets remediated relatively quickly, it's responded well, and a breach where it exposes like all these bad practices, right? Where you just see this and you're like, oh, I can't believe they didn't get breached earlier. Like, I can't believe this didn't happen 5 years ago, right? Because of the media attention or the focus on it, you become aware of whether you're doing the best practices and you're doing as many good things as budgets will allow, right? And then as long as you're doing that, everything generally works out pretty well. That's what we've been seeing. So.
It is, and really, it's cyber resiliency, right? It's just being prepared and preaching that to leadership, that it's the sound of inevitability. It's going to happen. Yeah. We want to do our best to mitigate it as quickly as possible. We want to be prepared. We want to train to be prepared for when it does happen, and everybody talks about that, but really putting it into action as best you can.
Yeah. And let's not avoid the elephant in the room. And that is the Gen Z, not even really the millennials anymore, but the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha group that you guys are going to be using your networks, that are using your networks. They are, statistically at least, more likely to fall for certain social engineering and certain tactics, because it's something about being what the data is showing is they tend to be these digital natives, right? They tend to just assume, hackers are like ghosts in the wires. They're going to get in anyway, and really a lot of what you guys do is educate everybody, the professors, the researchers, the staff, the operations team, as well as the students about, digital hygiene, cyber digital hygiene. Right?
Yeah, it actually that's a good topic. I helped with a class that we taught social engineering. I actually used Chris Hadnagy's book, Dark
great.
Waters, Fishing Dark Waters.
It's a great one.
used topics from there. And what we did is it was a class that was not security folks. They weren't cyber folks. They were all walks of degrees and majors. And it was a technical writing class that most people have to take. Mm-hmm. So we fished them initially, like just fished them. And all the students, we fished them and captured their score. And then I taught on these topics about social engineering and actually reviewed the phishing message that we sent them. I said, hey, here's the phishing message we sent you.
Oh, interesting.
Here's the things that you could have looked at.
How did they respond?
Yeah, just like most people, like, oh, you got me, right? They're like, oh, okay, now I know, right? So there was like a few modules, courses, and in the middle, we fished them again. And they did much better because we're literally showing them this is how social engineering works. This is how you are targeted. And it was actually for a free parking. It was a raffle for a free parking. So universities parking is like always the worst.
That's like gold. And
right.
That's like gold, right?
Right. Yeah. So we weren't sure, but no, it was great. They like most of them fell for it.
That's really good.
And then finished it up. And then at the end, we fished them at the end and then had them do a presentation on what they learned. And that was the coolest thing, right? To see them put together like a website of, man, my whole vision changed on what security was and why I have to use two-factor. Because most students you talk to, like, you tell them you're from security, they're like, oh, you're the guy that makes me have to use two-factor.
Right. Exactly.
Like, yes, but this is why, this is because this and this.
What's the balance between inconvenience and harm, right?
Right.
Like cybersecurity is inconvenient, but it's necessary, right? I mean, and so long as we can balance a little bit of inconvenience to avoid a major catastrophe, then it's all worth it.
And we're seeing a shift to targeting students.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of years, and it's
over faculty,
over faculty as well. But we have more controls around and protections and visibility around faculty. Students are a little harder to put around because there's so many, and what they're doing.
You've got
everything.
They're using their own devices.
Right. So it's a lot of job scams. Hey, and they use
you mentioned
the professors.
That when we met earlier. Can you walk the listeners through some of the cyber risks that college students are facing?
Yeah, definitely. So what they're doing, they're doing research. Threat actors are doing their research, and they'll go look at professors at Clemson, at other universities too. This is global, worldwide. Oh, yeah. I know it's U.S. based for sure. And they'll identify professors and they'll send a message to students and say, hey, a bunch of students, we're looking for a research position. We'll work remotely. All you have to do is, this super easy. You're going to make $300 a week. Send us your resume. They don't even look at the resume. They just say, send us your resume. And they ask them to go look up the prices of some equipment, like a computer, a printer, a calculator, whatever. And they send that back, say, oh, you're hired. Congratulations. Now we're going to send you a check, your first check. And, oh, by the way, how much do you do mobile banking? Okay, great. Now you're definitely hired. And how much does your mobile banking allow you to deposit? What's your max limit? Which these should be alarm bells, right?
Right.
It's $2,000. Okay, well, we're going to send you a check and we want you to deposit through mobile banking and let us know as soon as you get that deposited. And they deposit it. And then they say, okay, great. That was for your first week. We were just testing the whole system to make sure it worked. Now send us back, say they send you $2,000, send us back $1,000. So they go and they send back $1,000 and then the check bounces and the bank's calling the student and they're out,
they're
money.
Out the $1,000.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, and their account may get closed down and everything else.
And they have the wiring instructions or whatever, right? They've got.
Oh yeah. It's Zillow. They'll use Zillow or Cash App. They're using it all digital to get the money.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So students are, these are poor students anyways. And they're getting hit with this and all of a sudden they think it was a professor they were working with.
Yep.
And, oh no, now you're out, real money and you can't pay for food next week so it's a big problem.
Well, yeah. And those, that scam, I see that often with elderly too, that targets, various, utilities and other forms, and they're operated in various parts of other countries. Oftentimes, they're huge call centers,
Mm.
right? Like they it's very sophisticated, like the way that they are able to socially engineer the people, build confidence. And for a struggling student, I mean, like an opportunity like that sounds great. Like
Right.
why
Too
would
good
they
to be
not
true.
do it? It's too good to be true, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, what a challenge. What a challenge. One of the other things that you've done for the last couple of years is a cyber auxiliary member with the United States Marine Corps. Could you explain what that is? Like, what all do you guys do there?
Yeah, I was involved because another friend of mine had got into that as a volunteer, and really just there kind of when they have questions, or as a mentor, they may get a call spun up and they're asking questions about a specific product or a strategy. And as they have cyber teams within the Marines, which I didn't know they even had cyber teams within the Marines, they'll invite professionals to come in. You have to get through a vetted process, and
Mm-hmm.
get all the background checks completed.
Right.
But they invite you in. You come in. You can just be there as a sounding board, or be there to offer advice, or just if they have a question, like for example, Splunk. If they want to know, they're using Splunk, for example, and they want to
Right.
know, have you used that? Okay, please show up at this call, and you can give some advice on pros and cons, or tactics and techniques.
Excellent.
So yeah, it's a cool way to be involved.
Yep. Yeah. What do you think in your research and your experience? Yeah, several of the military arms as well as the federal agencies all have different cyber teams, right? And there's a call recently to kind of have a US kind of combined,
Mm,
because like each branch of the military is kind of doing their own thing. They're all doing well, but they're all kind of doing the best practices in their own way, their own unique way. Um, what are your thoughts if they create like a national cohesive one? Would there be benefits to that? Would there be downsides? I don't know if you know anything about that. I
yeah,
don't know if like what your thoughts are.
that's a good question. I have been involved with the National Guard, just like I've worked with those guys. They've come here and visited Clemson. Actually visited our SOC and kind of wanted to know how we were operating in our local National Guard, and talk to those folks, talk to the Marines. They are, it's a good point. They are all kind of in their silos, right? They're
Mhm.
doing their own thing, and maybe they're talking, maybe they're not talking. And I think that's a big deal. And with CISA being a great example of how they're trying to collaborate all that information to disseminate it across
Right.
everybody. And
Yeah.
in higher ed, that's one of the things coming from corporations to Clemson to higher ed. Higher ed is all we're not competing, and we're all in it together, which everybody should be. But when you're a corporation to corporation, there's still something you might be holding back, or
Right.
there's some competitiveness with that, and in those silos in the government and military, there's still silos there. So I think the better we can collaborate, that's what we need to do, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that the information sharing between the private sector and the federal government and agencies, I think that is something that a lot of uh, ISACs are trying to work on. A lot of think tanks are trying to work on right now, and I think that would be hugely beneficial, because seeing what other, see, we all kind of know what we're supposed to be doing, right?
Hmm.
But they all kind of have different threats depending on their sector. And
Right.
so seeing the tool sets that are used, the best practices, how they're actually rolled out. It's one thing to have a list of things to do, but everybody does them differently, right? And so
Right.
it's really interesting to kind of to have that information sharing, um, because I think that collectively then we all kind of raise our level uh, of defenses overall.
It's good to have some competition.
Yeah, it
and
is.
and I've seen those teams kind of compete in competitions, which is great because they all bring
Hmm.
their A game. But at the end of the day, it's us against the threat actors. We all need to help each other out.
Right. And one thing that a lot of listeners don't always realize is a lot of times the threat actors live in parts of the world where there's no consequences for them to do it.
Absolutely.
Like they can go and destroy lives, interfere with healthcare treatment, cancer treatment, ruin somebody's financial condition, destroy the reputation of businesses or universities, whatever, and there's no consequences to them, right? So long as they don't do it to one of the CIS countries, like the Russian speaking or the Syrian or whatever. It all kind of depends on which threat actor group we're talking about. But that's something that's always shocking to so many people.
Yeah, you get who are we going to arrest?
Well, yeah, and how
you're not going to arrest anybody,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot. We're part of InfraGard, and so we work a lot with Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, and we have people on the podcast as well as other kind of public service presentations where we've done with former heads in the FBI, and they're like, yeah, unfortunately, people are not going to get their money back. These guys are not going to get arrested. Like, that's the general truth to it. That's the scary part. Now, how do we defend, and how do we, I think in the last year, we've been able to take down, we meaning the law enforcement generally from North America in collaboration with the EU and the United Kingdom. It looks like we've been able to take down quite a bit of these cybercrime gangs.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see when you think about Lockbit, which was the top,
I was thinking about.
Yeah, it was the top. I mean, they had more breaches and more revenue generated illegally, but they run it like a big business. They had more done than most of the others combined. Like, they weren't even close to them. And they got taken down, and the way they did it was psychological operations. I mean, when you think about what these ransomware gangs do to us and do to organizations, they destroy your reputation, right? But what they recognized is how important the reputation is for cyber criminals. Cyber criminals go after other cyber criminals, right? There's no real honor among thieves,
right?
and by destroying their credibility there, right, they weren't able to attract and maintain and keep the level of talent that they needed to run their operations. Then they got banned by their own Russian forums, right? Then the feds went and took down their site and their infrastructure. And then by doing that, they actually, would post things kind of mocking them and kind of
I saw that.
Showing them that, which kind of showed, look, your reputation isn't all that good, is it? Right? It was one of the first times we've seen in a long time where we were playing not just the technical game, but the political and psych ops basically approach to that. It was very effective.
Yeah, I was cheering.
Yeah, it was really powerful
finally.
To see. Yeah. I absolutely loved it. And then you saw Black Hat. Black Hat, which had been disrupted back in October, November, December, something like that.
Right,
it was in the fall by a coordinated effort between federal law enforcement and the NEC, the UK's FBI, essentially, and then they came back and had that Change Healthcare breach, which was a big one. Apparently got $222 million, right? And then said, they claimed, oh, look, the feds got us again, and they put up the old notice that, oh, we were taken down. Meanwhile, they ripped off their own criminals, they ripped off their own hackers, and basically did an exit scan. Yeah, shocking, right? Like everybody's sitting there watching this, going, "Is this really happening? Like, you guys have no rules at all. Doesn't like." do you guys not hang out at the same clubs or something? Like, is somebody not going to like, is somebody not going to like bump into you and go, hey, you owe me 22 million or part of it. Like, can we like at least shore up? Like, it was an amazing year to see. And now it's going to be a totally different year because the two top, and the reason we just talked about those is those were the two top, like almost every breach you saw about in the news, it involved one of those two essentially. And now they're gone. So now it'll be interesting to see some of these other ones.
The power vacuum.
Yeah, the power vacuum happens fast.
Yeah.
So, and they rebrand. A lot of these are the same people that were involved with Conti back in the day after they were taken down, things like that. So, really, really good. Didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole, but Cybercrime's kind of interesting. It's like Batman.
Yeah, basically.
That's what this is. So, in higher education, and I'm not asking about anything specific involving Clemson. You guys do a phenomenal job. But what you're seeing, you see higher education more than other people in other industries. So, what are some of the top threats? Like, what do you see? I mean, clearly social engineering, right? Phishing happens. The scenario that you talked about with the job scam, while it's scammers more than like ransomware gangs, it still sounded like it involved a level of business email compromise. Or
not really. It was more impersonation.
No. It was just more impersonation.
But we definitely see more levels of impersonation, from executive leadership, and even trying to get out of a lot of it is just getting out of our monitoring and detection. And I think this is across whatever we see, we usually check with other higher ed and they're like, yep, us too. Right. So they're emailing directly to personal email accounts of executive leadership, impersonating the president or somebody else and saying, hey, and they're name dropping the CFO, they're name dropping the COO. Hey, and it's still mostly money related. Can you transfer me this money? Right. But they're doing more homework for sure.
Right. And a lot of OSINT, a lot of open source intelligence research.
Vishing more. That's, I think it's still going to increase. Right. And you saw the AI being involved. Right. And I'm sending these to my leadership. It's like, hey, just be, a healthy paranoia, right? Trust but verify. We need a code word, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And just education. I think that's vigilance, the best thing. Right? Yeah, vigilance. But that's what we're seeing is more homework by the threat actors to target individuals in a finance department or just executive leadership, to try to get those folks hooked and then get them out of our system. So even if they started in our email system, they'll quickly say, oh, text me here or send me an email here because for whatever reason.
Yeah, so they're bringing them off the main system.
Yeah, off the main system to try to get our visibility out of it, because then we're really relying on, there's not really a great solution for stopping text-based threats and identifying those. So they're clever. They're definitely clever. And still the big ones that, social engineering and vulnerabilities, right? Internet exposed vulnerabilities. Move It was huge for universities. That was a big one. If you look at a lot of university breaches last year, they were around Move It. Most of them were around Move It, which could have turned into also ransomware. Yeah. But that was a big one.
It was run by Move It was the encrypted on one end, encrypted on the other. It was that file transfer program.
Right.
We've talked about it on our show numerous times. We have several episodes on it. It's one of the largest just pure extortion campaigns in history. And it was run by, it's still going on today. Mm-hmm. And it's being run, the criminal campaign is being run by the Clop ransomware gang, but they're not really launching ransomware. They could have, but it doesn't seem like they have. They've just, looks like they've exploited the 0 day originally and continue to get into either certain vulnerabilities or they're still stemming off that original access that they had. But it hit a lot of organizations, like massive, just thousands, and 3 out of the 4 major consulting firms,
Yeah.
right? Like the Ernst and Youngs and the Price Waterhouse, all of those seem
Yeah.
to have
And you're
gotten it.
seeing, I would say you're seeing what I'm telling leadership is it is more extortion than
Yeah.
necessarily encryption. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's easier. It's less headache, less things you
Yep.
have to get detected, get the data and get out if you can. So, ransomware is still a problem, or that gang is still a problem, even if it is extortion. It's
It's
still
really
an
turned
issue.
almost into is it more like extortion as a service,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they create the leak sites and they publish them.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Interesting. Well, it seems like you guys there at Clemson collaborate with other higher ed groups. I don't know
Absolutely.
when you see things. So that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You don't really see that all that often in the commercial private sector.
And it's because you see a domino. It's,
Right.
hey, if we got hit, you're going to get hit if you haven't gotten hit yet. So it is a shotgun usually approach, but then they'll try, especially if they have success at one higher ed, they know somebody else is probably running similar platforms or software, and they will just hit as many higher eds as they can.
Yeah.
So it happens over and over again. So we just try to get the word out, sound the alarm. Hey, we saw this. You may be seeing this. Be ready. And just kind of always talking. It's just great. It really is one of the best things that I see with higher ed is just the collaboration.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to let you go without you sharing the story of creating like a student-run SOC. I mean, that is just a phenomenal like initiative that you guys created. Can you share with us that story? I mean, it is fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of the best things I've ever done, really, for
really
me
is.
and for my career. And I almost decided not to do it, but let me back up. In 2015, there were discussions like, hey, we're going to build a SOC. And at that time, there was only like 3 people in cybersecurity. Me as the main engineer doing detection and architecting and basically doing all the grunt work and the tech work. And we had a CISO and another guy. And I'm like, who's going to run this SOC, right? I can't do my day job and manage students. But, I decided, I said, hey, I'm going to put my name in the hat. I don't know who y'all were thinking about for this, but I love working with students. Right. I had a few interns, a couple interns before this. I said, I love working with students. I'd love to do it, right? I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'd love to do it. So they built a room, had monitors, had desks, had desks in a kind of a U shape, and it was cool. It was like all dark and everything, no windows, proper SOC. And so we just put the word out and said, hey, hopefully if we build it, you will come. And we had 3, 4, 5, and then 6 or 7 students come, and they had no idea what it was. I didn't know what it was going to be.
Right.
And we didn't know exactly how to filter for like who's the right student, mainly based on passion. Like, what do you know about cybersecurity?
Yeah.
How interested are you in cybersecurity? And really, like right out the gate, it was a game changer. Like, we were able to, like, for me, an incident happens, and I'm like, okay, force multiplier. Student A, student B, can you go look at this? Can you help me investigate this? Right. And divide and conquer. And even though they didn't have all the skills yet, you're
still giving them capes.
Yeah.
You're still giving them capes to go fight crime.
Yeah. And they're doing it on the job training, right? They're fighting fires with me. So how great is that for them when they go interview and they're like, hey, I was involved with real incidents. I helped protect Clemson. And while I finished my degree and got this real experience. So
that's phenomenal.
We went from there and built to more students. And then eventually I hired a SOC manager who I tricked into coming back. He actually was my very first intern. That's
good Steve. Social engineering.
Yeah. I was like, hey, I need somebody to help run the show. Please come back.
Right.
Now
you're amazing. We love you.
I know.
You love Baum in the beginning.
Exactly.
We're telling you, you're the greatest. Come on back. We're lucky to have you.
Yes.
And you're like, please do this.
Please, I can't do everything. Now he's my deputy CISO. So he was my first intern.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And the Student-Run SOC is still
Oh,
alive.
it's doing great. We usually have
great.
about 9 to 10 students that are
Oh,
really,
man.
they make a difference. It's not just, they're not doing tickets. I mean, they do tickets, but they're really doing real work.
Yeah.
And then they go out there and they're killing it, right? They're ready to hit the street, get a job.
Because so many otherwise just graduate with the book knowledge without the practical experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is like the greatest thing I've heard.
Yeah.
That is
it's
just
really
fantastic.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
So let's talk about other ways that people can break into cybersecurity. First of all, I mean, you're the guest, so I'm going to let you tell me what your ideas are, especially since you sit in that position in higher ed. But I just want to say one thing, and that is like cybersecurity is as broad of a term as business. Like it's really broad, is it not? Like there are so many, like you could be highly technical and be able to break things down, go to offense, go do ethical hacking, like go become a hacker for the good side, right? But there's so many other roles out there. Why don't you walk us through like kind of what you've experienced, what suggestions you may have?
Yeah, a big thing I get, most folks get asked this all the time, but is how passionate or how interested are you? You may not know how passionate you're going to be yet, but it's a journey. And do you want to be a CISO? Or are you just trying to get your feet in the door and you don't really know what the security is? And that's one thing we find with students. They think, they hear about security. It's cool. You get to hack things, maybe, right?
Right.
What do you know about cybersecurity? Is it something you really want to do? Because maybe it's not when you find out what the day job is. Maybe it is. And so that interest level, how serious are you? And then it is kind of choose your own adventure, I think. And that's how it was for me. And now looking back as a CISO, there's things I think I would have went on branches out ahead of time, like more GRC, more governance, risk compliance knowledge along the way, where I went more the technical route. Now I have to do both, right? I have to put both hats on, depends on what the day is or the meeting or whatever.
Yep.
So
and GRC, for those not technical, is governance risk compliance. Right. Governance is the initiative, the regulations, the overarching translation of cyber to the impact of the organization. Risk is the risk management component. Compliance are the actual technical aspects of reaching certain levels of standards and controls.
Absolutely. And students now, when, like I was saying, there weren't entry-level jobs when I started. And now they're going straight into a job normally. Maybe they're not going into IT first. Right. Which is the advantage I had, is I built up my IT skills and then I could use that as a platform to get into cybersecurity. Right. Mostly the need, is so big, you might go straight into an entry-level security job and you won't have had those experiences of working at a help desk, getting called at 3 a.m. to fix a server, having to do, whatever in IT. And I do think that is good. I don't say you have to do that, but it's not a bad thing to do, because it does give you language when you talk to those groups. Yes. You can speak their language. Like you can talk to the if you've done development work, you can talk to developers, you can talk to system administrators, you can talk to network engineers, because it's another group that has their own lingo.
It's something that helps with the negotiation, and whether you realize it or not, no matter what field you're in, like there are multiple negotiations that we all do every single day. And part of it is internal, and that is making an internal business case, right? And so by being in, if you're in the cybersecurity role and you have to make your case to the technology network operations center, right? It really does help being able to speak their language and having to be like, I've been there. I know what that's like, and being able to guide them along the way.
And understanding that business speak, right? Understanding the business motivations, so that if you can't sell in security the business side of the risk, then you're going to have a hard time making your case. Like, oh, well, we're security, they should just do it. It doesn't work that way. Right.
No, not at all. Right. I mean, and here's a common thing we see in every industry, including K-12, higher ed, and commercial financial institutions, you name it, is there are needs that like the cybersecurity team has internally at the organization, whether it's something they're building or something they're buying, some level of service, whatever that they're buying. But that translation, that making of the business case to non-technical decision makers, right?
Absolutely.
That is where a lot of this falls down. And then I also feel that the industry itself has hurt itself because there's so many companies and one-trick ponies out there that just make these over promises. Like they're like, buy this box and you will have security, right? And you know, like all the hacker friends of ours are like, oh, let's see that
Right.
box. We'll bring that box up at the next B-sides and we'll blow that thing up, right? You know,
Right.
it's like, no, it's not going to work that like that. But the over promising has hurt. But really the challenge of breaking down the technical aspects, like, oh, these mirrored rays will be good. Oh, we'll be able to detect this, and they're still sitting there going, why do we need? It's expensive, right? Like,
what
why
language
do we
are you
need
speaking?
this again?
Yeah.
Like, because it's so like measuring risk and being able to talk about it as without it, right? Your risk is very high, right? And there's a lot of standards out there that can help guide that. But having that business impact conversation is really key.
I think one thing that really changed my perspective, because it was from a friend of mine. His name's Adam Anderson. And he said, be Yoda, not Luke. Because I used to be Luke. I'm like the hero. I have to say no, because on my watch, if I say yes, then something happens. It's on me. Versus be Yoda. And you're just there. Hey, in my opinion, I highly recommend you do this because the risk is this. And this is what's going to happen if we don't do it. Here's what it's going to cost to fix it. And you're advising, you're giving them this is a business decision.
Exactly.
Versus you're just there to stop everything because sure, it's going to not work. And, you know, it's going to reduce the risk, but it's also not going to work or not the way they think it's going to work. So be advising, be a Yoda, right? Give them the decision information.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
That really is, because should there come a day, and everybody will experience it, right? When a breach gets through and there's some damage, hopefully it's not massive, right? But it's just some level of damage. Then there's going to be an inspection about like, well, did you recognize the risk? Yeah, we did. We recognized the risk and we brought it up to leadership and we explained it, and they made the decision for whatever reason not to. Right. But at least you explained pros and cons. And then leadership is there and they're still able to say, well, yeah, at the time we didn't feel that was necessary because we figured it was a manageable risk, and they're still fine. And both sides still will survive that. The brand will still survive after that. Right. It's when there's no thought behind it or they don't explain it well enough. Right. And they don't get it done when they really needed it, and then there's finger pointing and stuff like that. That's what you want to avoid, right?
For sure. And just be aware of the tech speak, for sure. You know, that's what especially if you come up the tech tree and they're just glazing over. They don't know what you're saying, so you need somebody to help you be able to craft it in a way that they understand and is in their language.
That's what I do every day. Like, that's my day job. Like my day job is like sitting in the meetings, hearing all the technical speak, going, okay, now what does that mean in English? Right? And then having to translate that into impact, right? It's a matter of risk. It's this. And then just hopefully just evolving organizations over time, right? Like whatever is happening. I mean, let's talk about AI real quick. Like, how has AI impacted what you're seeing yet, or has it not yet? Like generative AI, I'm talking about. There's always been machine learning.
Right.
And I'm not talking about every product now says that it has AI.
Yes.
Like everything, like gym shoes are like made with AI. I'm like, how is that possible? So
it's interesting. You know, definitely keeping tabs on it. And I send Chris Hadnaggy email or Slack messages when I see, hey, this new social engineering attack used the AI and those kind of things. I definitely keep tabs on it. I do think we're going to see more of it. It really is the way I describe it. It's like AI versus AI, right? How good is our AI
That's exactly
at detecting those things versus somebody using AI to create those, especially social engineering attacks? And it's going to be an arms race, and it's going to be who has the better
because
AI
one
models.
of the red flags whenever you would train people on how to spot a phishing email, right? It was like, well, it might be broken English, there might be, misspellings, or it might look odd or whatever. All of that's gone.
Yeah,
all of that's gone.
Yep, for sure. So I think it's just an awareness thing and really communicating, hey, these are going to get better, and they're going if they're not already, which they are. How does our tools deal with those attacks? Does it detect it? Does it miss it because it looks so good and it's using AI to help it look that way? So you just got to keep up with it. It's the genie's out of the bottle, right? You just have to deal with it and grow with it.
How does you don't need to tell me about Clemson, but in general in higher ed, how are you guys handling the use of generative AI just as an institution? Like I'm sure there's like students that are using it, and like professors probably have some software that like will detect it, and then they're arguing, well, I really wrote it, like, well, the software's still going red, all of that. But are you seeing it in any other facets? I'm just curious, like where all AI has been being implemented in higher ed.
You've got researchers that are looking to research AI. They want to do research in AI,
of course,
right?
Sure.
But a lot of universities, what they're doing, well, not a lot, a few I have seen, is they're getting their own version of like ChatGPT. It's like X university's own instance, so everything's within that bubble, right?
So that way they can share a little bit of confidential information.
Right. You give them guidelines, and what we're doing is we're giving guidelines. We're saying, hey, here's what data not to do based off of classification. Here's how to be safe. It's education, getting the word out there. When it
first came out, like you saw, what was it, Samsung? Like the engineers there, like put the source code right in there, and because it was fixing bugs. Yeah, it was doing it great. The problem is it's out there. Once you put it in the machine, you can't get it back.
Right.
And so then other people were like, give me the source code for the new Samsung product. And boom, it was spitting it out. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's not good.
Right.
I don't know. I think it was Samsung.
I don't remember. Yeah.
As I read, but if it wasn't, please don't send me hate mail. It was somebody. Like, just put an asterisk by whatever brand I said. The point is that did happen with a technology creator. So, and you can see how that risk could happen.
Yep, we're just trying to get as far ahead as we can to get the word out to faculty and students. That's we know this is a thing. We know you were going to use it. Just here's the guidelines around it. Now, but there's still an issue of detection of people using it for submission of grades.
Sure,
that's going to be an arm race too.
Yeah, right? that will. I mean, that's like. I mean, it's like the old days where people would like have it on the inside of their bottles, right? They would like have the test there. Am I allowed to bring a water bottle in? Okay, good. And then you're like, like, can I look at your water bottle? I mean, it's just an arms race. That arms race will always go on so long as there is testing.
Absolutely.
Take away testing, you won't have that problem. So that's fantastic. Hey, John, pleasure speaking with you today. Absolutely fantastic. What's on the horizon for you coming up? Are you going to be speaking at any B-sides? Are you going to Black Hat? What's on your horizon?
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking about the Wild West Hack and Fest, trying to get out there this year. I haven't been yet, so I'm excited to go.
Yep.
May try to put in for a speaking slot if I can get around to it, get to it.
Oh, people would love to hear from you.
Yeah, and my cohort Steve and I just recorded our first Cybersecurity Mentors podcast.
That's great.
Around mentorship and lessons we've learned doing this with students and others, and trying to get the word out there, not just for people that are looking to get into cybersecurity, but also encourage more folks to volunteer and to be mentors.
Absolutely.
So we're looking to do that.
Well, that's great. Well, we excited. Well, as that podcast keeps going, we're happy to help you guys promote it. Like, that's
awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you, David.
Love it, man. That's great. Well, John Hoyt, thank you very much. Good luck with Clemson. This won't be the last time we talk. I just talked to Chris Hannigy earlier today, so like I'm sure we were going to be bouncing around the same circles for a while.
Yeah.
But keep up the great work, man. What you've done is just absolutely outstanding, and I'm gonna, as soon as you get that podcast going, I'm definitely gonna give it a listen and spread the word. So
yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Well, that wraps this up. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hope you got value out of digging deeper behind the scenes of security and cybercrime today. Please don't forget to help keep this going by subscribing free to our YouTube channel at Cybercrime Junkies Podcast, and download and enjoy all of our past episodes on Apple and Spotify podcasts so we can continue to bring you more of what matters. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and we thank you for joining us.